to episode 80 of the LOTD Pod, the Left of the Dial podcast. The time worm from Richard Shirk, my co-host, brings us in to episode 80. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm really good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sean. This is Richard from Oakland, California. I'm recording in the Mercury Capsule studio. And Sean, it's always nice to hang out with you and talk about music.
Yeah, and I'm here recording in Des Moines, where it snowed today and was not pleasant.
Wow.
But yesterday I was wearing shorts, although, it wasn't necessarily shorts weather. It was like 60 degrees. Shorts weather for me.
I'm going to pause the recording and go over to my window and look at some palm trees. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I spent a lot of time in Iowa for our listeners that don't know our complicated backstory. So I feel okay about teasing you in a well-meaning kind of way.
Yeah, I know where it comes from. It comes from the same place. It comes from
Yeah,
Iowa.
yeah. So other than that, I think we have a really fun show. We talked about this a little bit on episode 79, kind of set it up for our many listeners. But do you want to explain the concept of our show today, which is called It's Complicated?
Well, it's complicated, as the title suggests. It's complicated. Complicated relationships, like you have with people. But these are bands and artists that we have complicated relationships with. We maybe don't readily say, "Hey, we're a fan of this," but we are. And we'll kind of. I think it'll make more sense as we go along, but. Uh, it's basically what it is. It's not the first thing you think of when you think of the music that you really love, but you love it, or at least like it in a different way, maybe a more conditional way. It's complicated.
It's very complicated. Gosh,
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah, and what a good idea for a show, Flick. I don't think I've told you lately how much I appreciate your show ideas. Oh, they're always so much fun.
Oh, thank you. Well, I will keep on. Hopefully, I'll keep on coming up with them. Then, it hasn't been a problem so far. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of things I like doing.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the friends that I have, you're like top like 3 or 4 in terms of people that are, always listening to music and thinking about music, talking about music. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm I'm
Don't,
gonna
don't ever change.
I'm gonna keep on striving for that top spot.
I
I'm
feel
I'm
like
in the.
I feel like you need a training montage now, like in an 80s sports film.
It's right. Yeah, I get the you're the best around going behind me while
Yeah,
I'm
man. Yeah.
working my way to the top spot.
Yeah, let's all just take a moment to envision that. Okay.
I'm
Yep.
3 or 4 now, so I might be top 3.
You're up against some real heavy hitters, man. I know some serious dudes. So,
Okay, there might
yeah.
be only 2 in front of me, but there could also be 3 in front of me.
Yeah, so
So
if you ever get in a room with let's say my buddy Bob Whitfield, I think you'd well, first of all, you had so much to talk about. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I'd like to. I don't know. I don't know this person. I like to think that we would find common ground more than a rivalry
Yeah, totally.
because of music.
Indeed.
That's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah. You got it.
But yeah, I'm gonna keep on climbing up the charts. Just watch.
Yeah, and then who else? Dennis McNally, who may come up in conversation later. Paul Bradshaw, owner of Mod Lang in Ludlow, England. Let's see, who else would you? Yeah, wow, my stepmom, Jean.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's four people. Am I knocked down to the fifth spot, or am I ahead of
no,
at least one?
you're in the mix. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
you know, I talk to you a lot. I don't talk to all these other people as much, maybe, but yeah, they're to be in that company. That's some serious stuff.
All right. Well, I'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah, right on.
I'll take it.
Uh,
I won't be complacent about it, but I will take it.
yeah, man, yeah. Um, so it's complicated talking about uh groups, artists, musicians that you don't always readily cop to. Um, are there is this limited to just artists, or is it kind of can I just explain a it's complicated kind of thing I've been dealing with in the indie rock
Okay.
sphere is health, fitness, and working out. I'm a big fan of all three. And it's kind of lonely out there. Like the only person you have to really talk to who's like 100% into that stuff is Henry Rollins.
Hmm. Is he really the only one? There has to be somebody else, right?
There has to be, but I don't know him. I don't know Henry Rollins either, for the record. But I'd imagine that if I ran into him, I'd be like,
Who do I turn to?
Hank, like, what kind of protein supplement do you use? And we'd have like a really good conversation, you know?
I call him H roll.
AH roll, what do you do for cardio? Like, how do you balance that against your reps, you know? So, yeah, it doesn't have to be limited to artists, but for this show it is. And I think so health and fitness it always kind of made me like the odd man out in the indie rock um, world. As has my interest in classical music and to some extent vegetarianism, and recently uh, like I don't know, like investment advice and non-drinking. You know, wow, I'm like an unpopular guy on paper, aren't I?
Well, I mean, there's always that, but I think what we're focusing on here is more having the legitimate reasons to have feel a complicated way for somebody, like per what you're talking about. I'm in the same boat, being a sports fan. Like
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, totally
y-
sports.
y-
It's yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be a sports fan and also be artistically, be more of a right brain sort of person. Uh, People don't really understand how that can be, how that can be possible, how that can work. How you reconcile that, but it totally can be done, and totally does happen all the time. And so but this isn't about judging a book by its cover or making snap decisions on anything. I like For me this is really about really having strong reasons to uh be complicated, but also at the same time, like everything on my list, and I'm sure on yours, is something that I really do sincerely like. Just maybe don't understand some other things that don't understand the context around it, I guess.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I like this idea a lot. So, do you want to jump in first with your pick?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go back. I'm going to start with this band because it basically is going back to my origins, I guess. Okay, so the band I'm about to talk about is not the Beatles, but I'm going to mention the Beatles first. I don't have a complicated relationship with the Beatles. I truly, love everything
They're
about them.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, they were good. In case you're not familiar, but like the first piece of music I ever could say was my own was the 45 of Yellow Submarine, backed with Eleanor Rigby, when I was 3.
Nice.
I still have it today. N- but I would say the Beatles weren't my first favorite band. They, like I didn't even really have a concept of what a favorite band was at that time. That concept was introduced to me with the band Kiss. So Kiss, first favorite band I ever had. Also, the first band I ever grew out of. I grew out of them when I was 8. So from 4 to 8, roughly, uh, those were the Kiss years for me. And
I feel like that's volume one of your like Bob Dylan Chronicles.
right, yeah, the Kiss
The
years.
Kiss years, yeah.
Um, yeah, so like it isn't one of those things that I don't know. To me, I don't have those things that yeah, like that when I was a kid. Now it's nothing or whatever. Because I still uh, I don't know. I'm still in some way connected to that 4-year-old me.
So
I guess.
can I ask you? So you said that you kind of grew out of them, but you still have like a place in your heart for them. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. I mean, basically the first, what it is, the first time I ever heard a record I didn't like was when I heard Unmasked by Kiss. Um so that's like the first time that I ever, like everything else was just I either really like this or I accept it or something. And that was the first album where I just like, oh, that's really disappointing and horrible. Um
Okay, so your brain, I want to see a negative before I see a positive. That's what your
okay.
brain was asking, and yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the first time I ever heard a record and thought, well, that's garbage, was Kiss Unmasked. But like, yeah, I mean, e- every now and then, and I do mean at least once a year or so, I will go back and at least listen to a couple of the songs from the album Love Gun. And the song that I put on my list is "Shock Me." It's an Ace Frehley song from that album. Uh, I still every now and then like I just get the urge. I just want to listen to this song, and yeah, but at the same time, you know, Gene Simmons and pretty much Paul Stanley, I'm sure as well, but Gene Simmons especially, awful person. Um, don't definitely don't really like Kiss as human beings, especially Gene Simmons.
Gene
And
Simmons is now going to attack you with small robots, like
yeah,
in
I'm sure this
the
is
film Runaway.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure this is the thing that brings the tear to Gene Simmons' eyes.
He's
Uh,
blowing up the chat. He's flaming
but
hot.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I definitely don't endorse them as people or artists. They're not. I'm not making the case for this being great art or anything like that. It is just a rockin' song, that as the kids say, and
What is the
it
song
shocked
specifically?
me.
Shock me. Okay, can I just I want to listen to it before it escapes my brain.
Okay.
Um, and while I'm doing that, I'd really like to know about. So you're a young kid. You say you started listening to them when you were how old?
4, I think.
And one thing I'm always interested in is like how did you do as a 4-year-old? How did you get into Kiss? Were there other kids that were listening to them
Oh well,
or
this
what?
this this definitely came from my older brother. As far as like the Beatles go, uh, I think I just heard the song "Yellow Submarine," and "Yellow Submarine" is a pretty natural song for like a 3-year-old
Oh
to
yeah, I totally get
really be
Yellow
into.
Submarine, but like
Yeah,
your older brother was into Kiss, is that right?
yeah, yeah, and so that started with him, but then really became a thing because of me. And on the other side, like thinking about what could have been like for my 5th birthday, I got a really cool um, toy guitar. Like it was a toy, but it was full size. It was like and it was modeled after an electric guitar, um, not electric, but modeled after one, and it had real strings. And because I saw Ace Frehley, um, break a guitar. That was what I did with this guitar. So I,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
could have learned guitar at a very early age, but did not. And as a result of that, like my mom never let me near her guitars, so that wasn't an option either. Um, so yeah, it's good and bad, I guess. I guess I would have never got the guitar though if not for my interest in Kiss.
That's complicated.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I kind of like this song though. Love Gun.
Oh, you're listening to Love Gun? Okay, the
Yeah.
song on my list is Shock Me, but Love Gun
Oh,
is
I completely spaced out.
yeah, Love Gun's a rocker too. It's about what you think it's about. So not not the most highbrow thing, um, but yeah, Shock Me is the my selected track, my favorite off of that album.
Okay. I'm not as into this track, but
Oh,
I'll give
okay,
it a listen, you know.
yeah.
I have a pal named Andrea who is a very successful entrepreneur, like the most motivated person I know, and she really likes Kiss. So I think I listened to some Kiss probably like 4 years ago when she mentioned that. So this is this show is very educational to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what this particular show is about for me. It's just one of those things where you know what Kiss is, and you know what it's not. Um, and I know, it's no great shakes, no great, as the kids say. You know, it's it's not high art by any means, and it was never intended to be. It was just intended to rock, and when it does, it when it achieves its goals, it works for me too.
And does your history of Kiss fandom does it overlap with the film Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park?
Well,
I may be messing up that name too.
yeah, I mean, I think when like when I was that age, just seeing Kiss uh, in motion instead of only hearing them was kind of an intriguing thing. But yeah, I mean, I think no matter how old you are, you know when something is really bad, and like Kiss Meets the Phantom, I don't think would have ever been something I thought was great or anything like that.
Have you seen it recently?
Not recently, but I have seen it as an adult. I don't remember exactly when that was, but I have seen it in my adult years.
Yeah, it's I've heard so much about this film and I've tried to track it down a couple times on streaming services and YouTube and everything, but definitely curious about the depths of like how low how bad can it be, you know? And
It's really bad. It is
yeah,
really bad.
and I get a lot of enjoyment out of certain bad films. I feel like
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Star Wars Holiday Special?
not all the way through, no.
Yeah, it might be bad on that level though.
Oh, that sounds
So
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it's that kind of bad. It's really bad.
I feel like if you're interested in film, like I've kind of a aside from being a podcaster, I have a side career as a, it kind of sort of in and adjacent to the film industry. And so I love bad movies. Um, I love watching entertaining bad movies because you can see how everything fits together and you can see how everything works or doesn't work. And so, with that rubric in mind, Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park sounds like a very educational film.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, the thing about watching bad movies for me is that you're really aware of how long they are when they're that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a time warp.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
oh,
just
you wanna really treasure every moment of your life? Watch a bad movie,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Time just falls, yeah.
Never are you more aware of time passing by than or for me when I'm watching a bad movie.
If you really wanna preserve those, moments of your life and be, painfully aware of each and every one of them, I think you should watch a really bad movie on some sort of early date.
Mm, yikes.
Did you just shudder? Did I just trigger that?
I think yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry, as we
Yeah.
say over here.
Yeah, I mean that would be a good one. Or if somehow it would be possible to watch a bad movie and have a job interview at the same time, then
Oh, okay, yeah.
that would be maybe the ultimate.
Wow, yeah, that's a bad day. That's a weird bad day. Oh, okay. Wow, that's really interesting. So, and what is your take on the film Detroit Rock City,
Uh,
which I
I
remember really enjoying. I thought it was a cool film, but I haven't seen it for like 15 years.
I I watched it. I don't remember it well at all. I did. I don't think I liked it very much, but I didn't hate it. But at the same time, I just don't remember it very well.
Okay. And so what is your extent of your Kiss shame?
Well, it's not. I don't think there's shame in the game. Yeah, it's not complicated out of shame. Like that wasn't really what I was going for with my list. It's just it's one of those things where it's just like I really like this piece of music, but I don't like their catalog, and you know, I'm not necess- I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a Kiss fan by any means. It's one of those things, like I once had a job where and my coworker or maybe a couple of coworkers would ask me if I like this band or that band, and a lot of bands I would just never have a yes or no answer to it. It was always like, yeah, I like this, but not so much this,
You
and
said it's complicated.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they hated that. They just wanted me to say yes or no to every question. But yeah, I mean, Kiss is just one of those where it's just like that's not a yes or no. I I don't even know if I would say it. How if I had to answer yes or no, I don't know how to answer that with Kiss.
Huh.
I almost have to tell the whole story of my life. So yeah, that's kind of more what it's like. It's not so much shame. I don't I don't feel I don't feel much shame about anything, honestly.
Right on, man. You're a hero to many.
I I'll accept a hero to one. If I can accomplish that, I've done something, I think.
Yeah, okay, good attitude. I enjoy hearing your positivity. Well, I my 2 cents on Kiss, not that anyone's asking, is, I really like the idea of them. I think that, rock and roll music should be theatrical and, scary in some ways, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I would phrase it more like it can be theatrical. I don't think it has to be, but I'm all for it.
And
Yeah,
I don't mean theatrics in terms of like, necessarily like explosions and blood, but
mhm.
yeah, I mean, you see, I think even a performance, a solo performance of someone who's obviously feeling the music, they're telling a story and they're feeling the story as they tell it, and I think that's kind of like the definition of really good theater for me. So it can be that, it can be really intimate and or it can just be like, explosions and blood. And that's cool too.
Yeah, I think even if their music was horrible, their brand of theatrics would be something I think I'd appreciate, even if there wasn't any music to back it up whatsoever.
Right on.
But I definitely would. I always want to put the music first. I wouldn't want to prioritize that, but yeah, I like the whole thing. Just not always the music, I guess. Like the stage show is always a pretty good thing. They had that, all the way through. They really nailed that one, and then sometimes they nailed the music part of it too.
Can I ask more Kiss questions, or are you ready to move on?
Uh, I'm, I guess both. I'm curious as to what your questions are. I, so fire away.
Okay, so knowing next to nothing about Kiss, um, so Gene Simmons, he's kind of dressed up like a demon or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And then there's another guy who's like a kid, like a spaceman.
Yeah, so Gene, I guess he has like the bat on his face and all that.
And what's up?
And
So
then
then there's like one guy who's like a kitty cat.
yeah, so Ace is the spaceman, Ace Frehley,
Okay, okay.
and yeah, Peter Criss is the cat. And Paul Stanley just has a star on his eye. I'm not sure exactly what he is. And then Eric Carr was Fox. And then there's one guy that has like an onk on his face. I forget. Vinnie Vincent was that guy's name.
Huh.
And yeah. And you know what else is even after Unmasked, Creatures of the Night had a good banger on it with I Love It Loud. So
It's complicated.
it's complicated. I rock out to that stuff. I do.
Yeah, it's part of. I'm seeing it as part of your training montage, as mentioned earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Ah, wow. Yeah, I've learned so much today. This has been really interesting.
All right. So moving on. Are we going to you now or?
Well, I only have kind of like one group. Uh, so
Yeah.
if you have other groups you want to talk about,
Yeah.
I'm happy to just to chat with you.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So next on my list is another monument of 70s rock excess, Aerosmith. Um, and the song that I put on my list is "No More, No More" from Toys in the Attic. Toys in the Attic is a phenomenal album. Uh, I don't know where I rank it for the decade, but definitely this would be like a high ranking album for the year that it came out for me. Um, and yeah, just No More, No More is another banger, another slapper. And Aerosmith definitely makes this list though because they're a band that when they were bad, they were just completely god awful to me. The like songs like Angel, Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Ooh,
When
don't even invoke that. That's
yeah, songs when they're big and songs that I think when most people or I don't know most people, a lot of people certainly, if they think of Aerosmith, they think of those songs, and I despise I despise that stuff.
yeah, it's the Stevie Wonder paradigm.
Yeah, and well, yeah, probably worse. Like I don't think Stevie Wonder was ever capable of reaching those depths. Uh, but those were phenomenally successful songs, and they're just detestable to me. And then another thing, like I find Steven Tyler very difficult to like. Maybe on the same level as Gene Simmons. But Aerosmith in the '70s, I cannot deny. I love it. Totally love it. And yeah, that's uh, definite had to make the list band for me.
Huh. Okay. I really
but I'm not.
don't. That's yeah. Please go ahead. This is
Oh,
all about you, Sean.
yeah, I'm just gonna add to that. I'm not going to rush out to buy any album that they put out. At this point, definitely not going to buy a ticket to see them live at this point. If I had a time machine and could go back to the '70s, I'd probably go see them live. And I love their catalog from that era. Just after that, ugh, that's gross. After that,
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Um, yeah. I have no history with Aerosmith other than like hearing them on the radio. Um, when I was a dishwasher at a steakhouse in Gilbert, Iowa, listening to top, top 100 radio or whatever.
Casey Kasem.
Casey Kasem. Yeah, may he rest in peace. Yeah. And the only time I've ever come close to seeing Aerosmith was when I was living in Portland. Happened to be walking downtown by Pioneer Courthouse Square, and I heard a lot of shouting people, kind of like a mob of people. And then Steven Tyler ran by with one of the other guys in the band, and he had flowy scarves on. And there was a group of fans chasing them. But he seemed to be having a good time. Like he was like, how when you're a little kid and you're playing tag and you know that someone's right behind you and you kind of start like giggling.
Mm-hmm.
He had that kind of reaction to this rabid mob. So he seems like a happy guy, you know?
It sounds like a scene right out of Hard Day's Night or something.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I think it was like the poor man's version of Hard Day's Night because it's like 80 people rather than 800, and it's like you're being chased by people in their 50s and stuff. I could say mean things, but I don't want to.
Yeah. By the way, though, I wouldn't go see Aerosmith live. I did when I had the chance to see Kiss live in the late '90s. I did do that. I did go see Kiss because it was one of those things where
Why not?
that
Yeah.
that childhood thing had to be lived out while I had the chance.
And how did it go? Was it fun?
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot louder than I expected.
And explosions, right?
Yeah,
And
but
blood?
it was like more the guitar that was way too loud. Because our seats were nowhere near the stage, and yet it was deafening.
Yeah.
It was like Bob Mold level deafening.
Ouch. Yeah.
But going to see Bob Mold, and I'm prepared. I know what I'm in for going in. But I wasn't quite prepared for it to be that loud when the seats were in the upper deck.
There you have it.
At the
I encourage all of our listeners to next time you go to a concert, do bring ear protection, even if you don't use it. You'll be happy it's there, just on a psychological level.
and if you're going to see My Bloody Valentine, don't bother bringing it because they give it away at the door. So there's
There
that
you
too.
go. Yeah.
You might want to bring it just in case they run out or something.
Yeah, you may need to double up because it's My Bloody Valentine. But...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, okay, that was Aerosmith. What else you got, Flick?
All right. Well, I guess I'll just stay with the '70s for this. Uh, the band being Heart. Heart is on this list for a bit different reasons, but similar in the fact that like their '70s catalog, I love their '70s hits. But the problem is, I guess along the lines of Don't Want to Miss a Thing and Angel, and am I forgetting one of those horrible Aerosmith songs from the 80s.
Just don't invoke them.
Yeah,
It'll get lodged in someone's
but
brain, and
yeah, the Heart songs, all I want to do is make love to you, and that stuff. The stuff, that was just gigantic in the 80s. And I think with Heart, probably a lot more, maybe even more well known than like Barracuda. I don't know at this point. Maybe Barracuda finally won out, but yeah, those 80s Heart songs are just horrible. And like I think they were great in the 70s, like Barracuda, and Ann Wilson, great vocalist, Nancy Wilson, great guitarist. Um,
they're Pacific Northwest, right? Seattle or
Seattle.
something.
Yep,
Yeah.
Seattle. And yeah, and they eventually got back to making good stuff again, but we're doing it under the name the Love Mongers, because Heart became like this big thing that they couldn't really call it their own anymore, I suppose. Uh, but yeah, I I guess they're on my list because I feel no qualms about this stuff from the 70s. It's great and I love it. But the average person, when you think of Heart, might be thinking of All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You and songs like that are just cringy as hell to me.
There, some of the guitar tones in the songs that you mentioned are pretty cool, but I can't say I really like the tunes, but I do appreciate how a lot of the big rock of that era is really androgynous. So, like if you didn't have the backstory about Heart, um, it's kind of hard to say based on the vocal style of the era who's singing, who's singing, man or
Mm.
woman or what have you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that's another thing about it. You didn't really have women uh, playing that type of music so much. Like they really succeeded in a boys club. Like I mean that's the subject matter for the song Barracuda is just how hard it was for them to get by in that world, that the music business. How I mean the a music business that could be pretty hard to deal with for anybody, but let alone um, primarily female band uh, who were just um, totally alone in that world. As far as that, like, there's no other band like them at the time.
Okay, yeah, I love your positivity and bringing that perspective to the show.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I mean that the '70s stuff I will go to bat for pretty hard. By the way, "Crazy on You" is the song I selected for my list.
Okay,
Because you probably know Barracuda.
yeah. And those two bands were they also bands that you kind of found out through your older brother, or just for
Heart,
the radio, or?
Aerosmith, brother, yes. Heart, just from hearing on the radio. I listened to a lot of radio, like pretty much. I can't say all my life because in my adult life I didn't listen to much radio, but throughout my childhood I listened to a ton of radio, always.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I think a lot of it. Uh, I feel like my peak years of listening to the radio, uh, probably like ages 10 to 18, and a lot of that overlaps with driving around.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think I'd listen to more radio if Calix, the college radio station here at UC Berkeley, had like a little bit of a stronger signal. So if you're out there listening to our podcast, Calix, step it up, guys. Let's do
There
this.
isn't there isn't any app you can get to listen to it.
There is, but and I think a lot of my drop off in terms of listening to the radio, and I do stream a couple stations every once in a while, but I've always been kind of an album by album guy rather than like, oh, let's, wait for the next random song to come on, and it can be kind of, I don't know if that's just part of me being like cranky and old or something, but like it's like, okay, well, you get, a couple tunes that you like and then one that you just like absolutely don't like, and kind of,
Yeah.
it's like I could be doing something. I could be listening to a record right now
Yeah,
on
and I
on an expensive turntable.
yeah, and I think for me that combined with, songs getting played in too high of a rotation are what, made it very difficult for me to listen to radio into my adult years.
Yep. Well, Heart. Okay, that was an interesting choice as well. Thank you for bringing that to the table.
See, I know you're skeptical about that one, but I don't know.
I'm
They're
actually
great.
not. Like, I'm
Oh,
trying
okay.
to approach it from the perspective that it's complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one thing I want to stress is nothing complicated about the 70s stuff. It just when you put that in the context of what they did in the 80s, that's where it gets really complicated.
I think a whole show about like extremely bad end credit 80s pop tunes over like, after like pretty good 80s films. That would be a cool show.
What's the first one that comes to your mind?
Oh, give me like a nanosecond here. Let's see. That would be uh Just an Illusion by the band. I don't even know the band's name. They're not even listing it
So
in the
what?
YouTube. And that was the end credits for the film FX.
Okay.
So that would be pretty fun to. It's like a like stomach cringing kind of kind of level of bad. So definitely encourage everyone to check it out if they um need to have their emotions, flexed, to stress test. The band is called Imagination,
Hmm.
and the film
Okay.
is from 1986.
Not familiar with their work.
I I don't think they really had any work. I think they had just like this one really bad song, and and then movie executives in the 80s were like, "It's perfect."
See, most of the 80s movies that come to mind for me have good songs on the credits, actually. I'm having a
Y-
hard time thinking of ones that have bad songs on the credits.
Uh, yeah, look, I think it would be a whole show, but I would say this one, I would say like Fletch. Um,
I really don't. I remember Fletch really well. I can't remember what's on the credits.
I assure you that it's bad. So
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
okay, well,
Fletch.
I've derailed the conversation again.
Yeah, I
But
don't remember Fletch having any good music in it.
yeah, it's all bad. Yeah. Meanwhile,
Meanwhile, okay, so next on my list, um, I would say this is not as complicated. Uh, this is considerably less complicated. Next on my list is Cheryl Crow. Um, it's not so much that I think she's done. I mean, she possibly has done some embarrassingly bad stuff. I'm not aware of it if she has, but she's definitely done some stuff I don't like, um, mixed with stuff I like quite a bit. So starting, I guess, with what was it? Tuesday Night Supper Club was her first album that anybody heard, really. Um, which you know had I Can't Cry Anymore. That was a good song, and I think a so album. But then, like, her second album, the self-titled album, and then the Globe Sessions were stellar, I thought. And I guess the reason why she makes my list is because I thought those two albums were so particularly good, and I thought she's like going to be this artist for the rest of her career. Um, and then then like I think maybe the next album was where she had the song "Soak Up the Sun," which I thought was just to me that was kind of like uh, the answer to her first big hit was "All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun,"
Uh-huh.
and which not a terrible song, but I think the reason why it became such a big hit is because the chorus is "All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun." So
I
then,
think it's a great song. It reminds me of it just has a really cool like 70s like Laurel Canyon kind of vibe to it.
sure.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, where that's the reason why it became such a universal thing that people latched onto is just because of the chorus, about
That's possible. Yeah,
yeah.
so I don't know a lot about Sheryl Crow, but I like everything that I've heard, all the big radio hits. I thought they were really cool.
Yeah, I to me though it's like I really disliked Soak Up the Sun because I felt like she was doing another dumb, not that All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun as a dumb song or anything like that, but I felt like in Soak Up the Sun she was doing a dumb song because um, she kind of was trying to tap into what was commercially successful in that first big hit.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's the reason why she makes my list is just because she made two albums I absolutely loved. Um, and yeah, then kind of seemed to be going more toward how do I get another hit, path. Um,
Yeah, I'm listening to it now. It sounds like the 90s,
Soak Up the
e-
Sun.
even though it's from 2002, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Mississippi, by the way, is the song on my list from the Globe Sessions, Bob Dylan song that she got first. She recorded it before he did,
Take that, Bob Dylan.
so not too shabby.
Can't win every time.
Yeah, even though I'm thinking he had some say in that matter.
No, I see the entire screenplay just Christopher
Yeah,
like
just like he wrote it
car
and
chase to the recording
he
studio.
wrote it and left it out on his doorstep, and she got there first.
Uh-huh, yeah. It was yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, but yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that one's a stretch.
If you're
But
feeling it, it's a valid feeling.
I guess the parallel here is that I don't necessarily like the Cheryl Crow songs that most people think of when they think of Cheryl Crow. Like I don't really like the big hits, but I love the small ones. I love the album tracks on those albums. I wonder how many people have even listened to any of those tracks. It's just like she's one of those artists that probably a lot of her fans just know the one or two songs off of each album.
Okay, so I'm looking at the chat right now, and the chat is saying, since you mentioned a bunch of albums, what would be a Sheryl Crow album to start from?
Well, the ones that I mentioned, the self-titled album or the Globe Sessions.
Okay. So the self-titled album or the Globe Sessions. I'm going to put that into
Yeah.
the chat. And yeah, great question, listeners. Thank you. Appreciate that. And yeah,
uh,
yeah,
okay, so I'll go right into my next one because it's kind of in the same vein.
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Probably more so, and that's Liz Phair. Although I don't think when people think of Liz Phair, they think of her as they don't think of her by the most commercial stuff that she's done, but she makes my list because of how bad a level she got to when she was making a run at being commercially successful.
Yeah,
But
I remember Exile in Guyville,
mhm. Yeah, most people
and
probably think of that first. I think.
I see that her Spotify photo is kind of weird, but yeah, I guess I didn't really. Okay, so I know from back in the day, Exile in Guyville, self-titled and Whip Smart, but I never really. investigated the rest of the catalog.
Well, the self-titled one, that's the one where she is taking a stab at success commercially. Um, yeah, I mean, Exile and Guy Phil is great. I think a little bit overrated, really. Like it was made into something that I don't think it even had a possibility of being. With the critical reception that it got, but it is great. And definitely the album that I think of when I think of her, and I think most people do. So again, this is probably less complicated, because most people aren't thinking of stuff from Fun Time or whatever when they think of Liz Phair. But she did do that other stuff, and it is bad, and that's why she makes the list. But 6'1" from Exile and Guyville is what makes my list.
Okay.
Supernova could also have been on my list too, or quite a few other ones. The first two albums are great. Third album's pretty good still too, and then it goes in a different path for a while.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I only have one more on my list. Did you want to talk some on your experiences?
How about we close out your list and then we can chat for as long as we want to about what's on my list.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Last on my list is Vampire Weekend, and again, less complicated. This list kind of worked its way down. They're less complicated as they go, but still complicated because when you see what's his name, Ezra Koenig, in an interview, or you see him in whatever clothes that he happens to be wearing on a given day. I relate to him, very little in those moments, but enjoy the music very much, very much. Like the self-titled Vampire Weekend debut, one of my favorite albums of the aughts, and Modern Vampires of the City is one of my favorite albums in the teens. So they have two just humongous albums, two of the biggest albums for me. So musically, I couldn't love them more, but a lot more difficult to like them, seeing them in interviews and whatever. But
yeah.
"Don't Lie" from Modern Vampires is the last song on my list. Yeah, and if you ask me if I like Vampire Weekend, I'm not going to have too much of a difficult time saying yes. But
Do you like Vampire Weekend?
I do.
Oh,
I do.
There you go.
But if I see Ezra Koenig in an interview, I might be like, why do I like them again? But
And
then I would put on the music and be like, that's why.
And I haven't seen interviews with this fella. What is it that you don't like about him?
I don't know. It's just it's kind of like they're like, I don't know much about people that spend summers in the Hamptons, right? You know what I'm referring to?
I think I do. Yeah, I think this goes back to a lot of our chats about
Yeah,
if you're a music fan, like there are a lot of rich kids that.
Yeah, it's a little bit that Lana Del Rey thing.
Yeah.
Where just like I know that whoever it is that spends their summers in the Hamptons, they probably don't want to hang out with me, and I don't think I want to hang out with them. But
Ouch. Yeah. You just alienated like 14 of our listeners, dude.
Yeah, but anyway, that's the impression that I get, sometimes. And at the same time, it's not something I have firsthand experience with. I don't think I know anybody personally that spends their summers in the Hamptons. So maybe not being super fair. I'll just say that I might not be fair.
Right on. And you said something about how they dress. So, can you describe that for me?
I think so little about clothes that it's kind of hard for me to describe.
It's kind of like lots of polo shirts and with puffy
Yeah,
collars and stuff, right? Is
sure.
that
I
what I'm
think, yeah, I
getting?
think so. I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, I can't even
So,
really picture it in my head. I just, I know I've seen it.
so kind of like the Bret Easton Ellis 1980s
Yeah,
rich
yeah,
rich kid thing.
sure. Yeah, yeah. It's like they, if not for music, maybe they grow up to be the Patrick Batemans of the world.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Watch out, watch out. And
so
that's
that seems pretty unfair, I will say. But
uh, it's okay to be unfair sometimes. You're allowed to have your creepy opinion. It's complicated.
yeah,
Uh, wow. So the list of complicated groups for you, we've gone over Kiss, Aerosmith, Heart, uh, Sheryl Crow, Liz Phair, and Vampire Weekend.
that's right.
Interesting. Yeah, good list. And are you going to pick out tunes from these people and put them on a playlist?
Yeah, it's already up there. It's already up on our Spotify page, LTD
Okay.
Pod.
So for our new listeners, our show has a companion playlist almost every week. And how can we find that on Spotify?
You can search LOTD Pod for our profile, and you can also search LOTD Pod to find the podcast on
There,
Spotify.
there you go. There you go. Um, so I guess it's my turn. And so when we were talking about this last week, I had a couple thoughts. Um, and I have my list in front of me. I had a really hard time thinking about bands that I have a really complicated relationship with. I do have bands like you mentioned that I've grown out of. Um, Definitely have grown out of uh, my kind of first musical love was Phil Collins and Genesis, but I never listen to them anymore. And uh, then when I was kind of a teenager, I think there was a period where Nine Inch Nails was an important band to me, and they're
Sure.
not an important band to me anymore. I still respect certain aspects of all of those bands, but I don't listen to them anymore.
Yeah, I think that fits though because yeah, that's one of those. If somebody says, "Hey, what do you think of Nine Inch Nails?" You know, you're going to go into that whole spiel of, "Well, they were once pretty important to me," but you know, so yeah, I think it still fits the bill.
And the other bands that kind of leap to mind. So I got to preface this by saying that any music I listen to, I don't really have a problem talking about it anymore or like representing my fandom. I'm like completely unapologetic and open about liking a lot of bands that are maybe not interesting to uh like a hipster person, but
Mhm.
I don't really encounter them. And I don't really uh need to tailor my preferences to impress anybody. So
Yeah,
my
but
my kind of short list that I came up with that was they were all rejected on this basis. So I'm going to give you just like the short one.
well, I mean,
Um,
I think it does fit along the lines with who I talked about because I don't have a problem, you know, like these aren't bands that I was having any trouble admitting I like.
oh,
It
okay.
just
I'm yeah,
it
yeah.
just I,
I'm getting
oh,
to
okay, got it.
yeah.
All right,
So the short list would be, and these are bands that are really good, and you should check them out if you don't know them. ABBA, who we've talked about a lot. Rick Springfield. Props to my buddy Chad for turning me on to his lesser known jams. Nancy Sinatra. Definitely have some Nancy Sinatra going in our house. on a fairly regular basis. The Lithuanian theremin virtuoso Clara Rockmore, Squeeze, Crowded House, Midnight Oil, Lyle Lovett, and Hank Williams. Uh,
who who has a complicated relationship with Hank Williams?
Lots of people who don't like country music
Al, yeah, I guess
uh,
there's always that.
or find it kind of like paint by numbers or repetitive or something. But the band that
Well,
I wanna talk about is the Grateful Dead.
okay.
So that is pretty much the only band that uh, I listen to and like a lot that you'll mention in casual conversation and you'll get like pushback from people. And and so in my world, the complication of that is not about how much that affects how I like them, but that I do find myself having the no, no, man, wait a minute kind of conversation with lots of people. Uh, and uh, and I can tell you more about that, but I feel like Sean, you and I have had that conversation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a complicated relationship there too. I really would never and have never said that I'm a Grateful Dead fan in any way. But I do always say, like the answer if anybody asks, and I have other friends, that are pretty into them. But whenever the conversation comes up, I do always make a point to say, yeah, I really like American Beauty a lot. I just don't, I don't really like them so much. Like I don't uh, the concept of what is them. Like the association, the first association. As you know, that's kind of been the essence of the show is what is the first association with this band, and do I like that? Um, for me, like the first association with the Grateful Dead is always the really long jams and the live shows. That's the part of Grateful Dead that for me has no appeal. Like I don't have any interest in those live shows and the really long uh, jams or jam bands. Like what they begot.
Huh.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, those are all really good points, and I think I've had those qualms too. I think my early history with Grateful Dead. Well, can I tell you my very earliest history with the Grateful Dead?
mhm.
Um,
Oh, well, you were
are,
birthed.
are you, Sean? You're stepping on all my lines, dude.
Well,
Um,
we talked about that like a couple weeks ago.
uh, yeah. So, my very early history with Grateful Dead is that they were the first rock show that I went to when I was 4 months old and still just a little indie rock grapefruit. Um, and that was I did some research into this, Sean,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and I listened to the show, and that was from May 29th, 1980, which is um, 5 months before 4 months before I'm born. Uh, and that was at the Civic Auditorium in Des Moines. And it was really interesting to listen to the show. I felt like under the right circumstances, I could listen to that show and I could be like William Hurt in Altered States and regress into a caveman or something. Uh, it was it lit up it did light up parts of my brain, and I think that under the right circumstances, of which you can imagine, uh, it could be that could be its own show is or documentary is Richard's regression into his prenatal concert experiences in 3D. Uh, and it was fun to have that history and be able to find that and listen to it. And living in the Bay Area, you kind of, if you're into music, you kind of have a connection with with this band in general, just from going to the Fillmore to see concerts in San Francisco, um, the impact of Bill Graham, who was part of their management for their entire career, pretty much, and just the circle of friends that my parents ended up having. My California mom Jean worked for Bill Graham for a long time and was never really that into the Grateful Dead. Hope I'm not outing you, Gene, but I'm pretty sure you're open about that. But both of my parents, who my mom and my dad met in college at the University of Iowa, and they would see every Grateful Dead show at the Field House. They would have concerts at the Field House, and then would go out and get in clashes with the police over Vietnam, and it was really part of who they were when they met. And I think for uh, both of them, my dad is no longer with us, but for my mom, definitely it's still part of who she is. So I did grow up with it. I did grow up around it, and maybe I have kind of like a head start over other people for that reason. But I, I I guess I didn't really listen to them much until my 30s or so. I'm 40 now, but I can appreciate a lot more about it from this angle. You mentioned the super long weird jams, and I think that used to kind of puzzle me until I got into weird Miles Davis era,
Mhm.
and so I see some overlap with like kind of freeform, like uh like weird jazz.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah, go
mean,
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I do want to elaborate on my feelings on jamming. It's not jamming per se, because like things that were formative for me, Jimi Hendrix, very formative for me. So I'm certainly accustomed at an early age to a lot, long jams. Um, and like I have also, not as much now, but I've also been, pretty into the Allman Brothers at a point in my life too. Um, and like always really liked that, but just s- the specifics of the Grateful Dead jamming was never something that I liked. Like and again going back to the jam bands that are spawned off from them.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about those guys, but
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, yeah. I think one thing I realized too is that not all like live Grateful Dead jams are the same.
Sure.
This is a band that has gone through many eras, so the a lot of their early stuff, especially their live stuff, is very bluesy. When Pigpen, Ron McKernan, is in the band. He dies in 1973. The band starting in 1965. And then kind of the classic late 60s Summer of Love is very psychedelic, and later 70s can be uh, more, I wouldn't say folky, but definitely more melodic and kind of approachable. I'm not a big listener of uh, the live concerts. Uh, they they get some play around here, but I'm a big kind of studio album fan. So I'm gonna say if you wanted to check out this, and another thing about the Grateful Dead is that it's kind of like when you're first approaching jazz, like where do you start, right?
Mm.
And so my quick start for this band would be From the Mars Hotel, 1974.
Ship of Fools is on that. I like
Yeah, yeah.
I like Ship of Fools.
Scarlet Begonias, just solid record, top to bottom. 1970, Working Man's Dead, and American Beauty, which I think of as kind of like two halves. Uh, Weird Americana. One thing I like about the group is that I wouldn't say that they're necessarily like leaderless, but they are um, cooperative. I'd say that no one in the group is necessarily like the guy who's gonna fax the chord structure to the guys and be like, learn this before the next rehearsal. It's a really interesting group in that everyone seemed to have more or less equal say, both musically and for the rest of it. And
So they're like Sloan.
yeah, and then also the depth of the importance of lyrics is really important to this group in that they two of the people in the band do nothing but write lyrics, which a lot of people don't maybe know about. But one guy is Robert Hunter, and another guy is John Barlow. And I'm kind of paging through the collected annotated lyrics of the band. Thank you, Jim. And the extent to which they reference like early obscure blues, um, really uh, interesting deep cut uh, folk mythology, and just straight up drugs. It's kind of a weird mix, and then when you bring it to the band, who are a bunch of guys coming out of the folk scene here in the Bay Area, you have you know the mix of like LSD, psychedelia, and then guys who really really like bluegrass and can like shred on the banjo. So it's a weird band. It's a complicated band. I just wanted to point out, those albums that I mentioned. Also wanted to point out Axomaxoa from '69, Anthem of the Sun from '68, and the self-titled record from '67. A lot of the other studio records, I think, have like a couple good cuts on them. Even the kind of, disco pop sounding album, Go to Heaven, has Althea on it. I found a great playlist called Four Dead Newbies, and this was put together by a Spotify person named Allison Ivy Pavlov. So that's a fun starting place too. So it's complicated,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I end up having that chat with somebody probably like, I don't know, like back in my old life, before COVID, probably about like once every 2 months, 6 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, I would imagine where you live now, you maybe get more pushback the other way. But yeah, I have that conversation every now and then because the thing about it is that people that are into, hopefully people that are into the Dead are into other bands as well. So you do find common ground, and I can find common ground within their catalog because I do like some of it. Definitely the emphasis on American Beauty, and then a few things sprinkled out here and there. Like the bands that are on my list, Grateful Dead are also a band that I've taken the time to put together at least something of a Spotify list for my own listening. So that's definitely falls under my it's complicated too. Just not into the jamming, and I've also never understood how deep into somebody's live tapes you can get into. Like there, you have to take time to listen to other bands as well. Is what I'll say to that.
You heard it here first, dead people. Sean's mad at you.
It just take a little time to listen to other bands. That's all.
Yeah, I think you could probably get pretty myopic with this group. There, you know, I don't think there's anyone alive who's listened to all of their uh the bootleg
Eh,
content out there. It's just
Some people try though, for sure.
thousands of hours, but it's cool because you know, like I mentioned with that show that my mom went to when I was just a little bump in her belly, you know, it was so I think a lot of music going is tied to more than just music. So it's pretty interesting to kind of put together some moments in people's history and be able to search through the live tapes on either Spotify or on like archive.org. Be like, oh yeah, well that's exactly what they heard that night. It's kind of an interesting experiential archival moment for me at least.
30-minute version of U.S. Blues.
Uh, I'm sensing some negativity from you, Sean. So
It's complicated. You know, you want to talk to me about American Beauty. I'll have plenty of good stuff to say.
there you
Tons.
go.
It's
Well,
really good, especially
yeah,
Box of Rain. Box of Rain is amazing.
yeah, beautiful songs. Yeah,
Ripple is also great.
yeah, and props to Dennis McNally.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that album whatsoever.
There you go. It's complicated. I guess I'm a little bit skewed too from family history thing too. Uh, the 1992 Lithuanian basketball team involvement with the Grateful Dead. Are you savvy to? Did you ever see that documentary? The Other
Hmm.
Dream Team.
No,
Okay.
but speaking of basketball, Phil Jackson is deadhead. So
So the 1992 Lithuania had just broken from the USSR as it collapsed and is finally an independent nation, and they want to go to the Olympics, and they don't have anyone to sponsor them. They don't have any money, and one of the things I'm really proud of with my dad is George Shirk was a really talented writer, sports writer for a lot of his life, and uh, was traveling with uh, the team that he was covering, the Golden State Warriors. I believe they were in. They had just played in Detroit,
what era
and
is this?
this was
90,
late
early
80s,
90s.
80s, early 90s. So
Was Chris Mullin still on the
yeah,
Warriors?
yes, and
Okay.
so he takes Don Nelson and Šarūnas Maršalonis, who's a Lithuanian basketball player with the team, to see the Dead and takes them backstage to meet the band. And through that conversation of Šarūnas Maršalonis mentioning the Lithuanian team wants to go to the Olympics but doesn't have the funding, the band says, we've got some money, and then ends up sponsoring the 92 and 96 Lithuanian Olympic basketball team.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so if you wonder why they were wearing tie-dyed uniforms, that's part of it. Yeah, there's a cool documentary about it called The Other Dream Team. So definitely encourage everyone to check that out. But yeah, just uh, maybe they weren't into the long jams either, but they were part of the community, and it's cool that the enthusiasm of music and sports can intersect like that. So that's one of my favorite stories about just introducing your friends to other friends. Magic
Yeah.
things happen.
But by the way, now I'm remembering this documentary because I think maybe I told you about this at one time, didn't I?
Yeah,
'Cause-
you had mentioned it. Yeah, I think
yeah, okay. And now I've totally forgotten it. Like normally my memory is pretty tight, but yeah, I forgot about that. But now that you mentioned your dad, I think I spotted his name on the credits or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, the opening kind of like the trailer has
Okay.
the one of the articles that he wrote about the Lithuanian basketball team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay, it's coming back to me now.
Yeah, yeah. So
And, and
yeah,
by the way, Don Nelson, former Hawkeye too.
I didn't know that Don Nelson was a former Hawkeye. You
Yes, he
didn't tell me
was.
this.
Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
okay. And now he's hanging out with Willie Nelson and Woody Harrelson in Hawaii.
That's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
It, it might be us someday since we're
Yeah,
also Hawkeyes.
keep dreaming, Iowans. You can do it. You two can smoke a bale full of dope with with all these people. Yeah, that is the final word.
Okay, that's it. That's where it wraps up.
Yeah, yeah. So, see, I like the Grateful Dead. They're not always listenable, but they're always interesting. And you're never going to be starved for material. So,
There you go. Well, yeah, I don't know if the list goes on long enough for us to do another one of these, but maybe at some point we'll have more bands that
uh,
we realize we have complicated relationships with.
maybe.
I,
Yeah, like I
I,
said before, I had a really hard time coming up with this one because,
yeah, well, apparently,
um,
like to me, if you have Squeeze or Crowded House, like to me, there's nothing that should be complicated about those. Those are just good bands. But yeah, and and again, Cheryl Crow might be stretching it too. I don't think there's that much wrong with her. She just has a few songs that she might be more associated with them, not crazy about. That's all.
yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Yeah. Oh, and the Bee Gees. I wanna definitely rep the Bee Gees and how much they rock.
I can understand how that could be
Yeah,
complicated because they
yeah,
are not the same band throughout their career for sure.
yeah. But they're always awesome. So, um, definitely want to not leave them out of the list because definitely love the Bee Gees. So, as I know you do too. Well,
I I, I do, but I love the mopey Bee Gees very much more so than the disco Bee Gees.
I love disco Bee Gees as much as psychedelic Bee Gees.
I love me some mopey Bee Gees.
There you go. Someday we're gonna have a DJ set together, and this will all make sense.
Someday it
So
will all make sense.
someday it will all make sense. So, Sean, tell me a little bit about what we're talking about next week.
Are we gonna spitball it live? Because we haven't discussed one.
Okay, well,
Uh,
let's
uh,
skip over that. And Record Store Day is coming up, and we talked about doing some picks for Record Store Day,
yeah.
which is
When's Record Store Day coming?
June 12th.
Okay, so
So, show after next, I suppose.
for June 12th, I don't know. We're not even into May in a couple of shows. We'll have to figure that out. We'll definitely be doing that show, but as far as when, not sure.
Okay. Well, our next show is a mystery, so you got to tune in next week.
Yeah,
It's so
I haven't
exciting.
have an idea, but I'm scared to put it out there in case it gets shot down.
If you want to put it out there, dude, I'm all ears.
Okay, songs that make us laugh, or artists and musicians that make us laugh,
Huh.
and it's not Weird Al. It's not novelty stuff. It's something a little bit deeper.
Like
I mean to diss Weird Al. I don't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Props to him. Songs that make us laugh. Songs that make us laugh. Songs that make us laugh.
See, this is why you don't do it while you're recording.
Well, that's certainly one possibility of what show
Yeah,
will be here next week on
that's right.
Left of the
Well,
Dial.
here's one thing for sure: we'll have a show next week.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, I can't say that 100% for sure. I think we will.
Yeah, if yeah, I'm vaccinated now.
There you go. That will help with the recording.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe we should
We're
wrap it
both
up.
vaccinated now, so
Yeah, yeah, maybe we should let our listeners get back to their nuclear experiment.
All right, get back to it. Go watch Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
You know, if you can find the full version of it, send it to me because I want to see that film. I do.
Go get your copy of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, dub it, and then send it to Richard.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you can send to me. I'm in Oakland, California. Thank you. Okay, this has been really fun. This is an interesting show. This show has been It's Complicated, show number 80 on Left of the Dial podcast. And Sean, it's always fun to hang out and talk music with you. So until next week.
Until next week.
Okay, this is Richard signing off from Oakland, California.
And this is Flick in Des Moines, and no snow on the ground yet, but it'll be coming back.
Okay, see you when I see you.